financial architecture, so they are able to borrow responsibly. But also what I heard from DC was the importance of private capital and how governments are working to protect that capital. And Standard Chartered is a strategic partner in our region. I'm pleased to say that, I'm not sure whether I'm right, David, in saying they used to be members of the Eastern African Association, but a strong partner in East Africa. But sometimes it's important to hear experiences from businesses that are investing their own capital in the region. So, Mr. Sanjay, perhaps you can share, make a few remarks, but also share your experience doing business in Uganda and how you're supporting the government with their development agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You know, we are delayed, so I wanted to just say a big sorry. I thought that the road problems of potholes and all were only in Uganda, but I found plenty here nowadays, so we took the wrong road. Anyway, my name is Sanjay Rukani. I'm the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Uganda, but I'm also the chair of the British Chamber of Commerce in Uganda. And what we do is, from a bank, we have been globally existent for about 170 years. And in Uganda, we are the oldest institution. For 112 years, Standard Chartered Bank has been there. And for many of you who have history in Uganda, you know that traditionally we were also the central bank of Uganda up until independence. And then, of course, the government took charge. So we have great privilege to be part of the history of Uganda. A couple of years ago, we, as Standard Chartered Bank, did a socio-economic impact study, which indicated that as a bank, we contribute to about 3% of the GDP, having been there for so many years. And we clearly are raising a lot of financing, supporting the government on many agendas. So that's the big work we do. Now, as PSST is walking in, I do have a confession. I'm actually a Tanzanian, now working in Uganda. And I moved into Uganda 2.5 years ago. My first meeting with PSST, I was telling him, see, PSST, look at the investor metrics. And every time I would rub into him where Tanzania stands, and of recently I'm now being challenged because he rubs into me, look where Uganda stands. So I've now decided I'm an East African citizen, and this is the best place to be, PSST. So what are we seeing as private sector and as British Chamber of Commerce, or as a bank that is supporting growth of the economy? I think one of the things that I personally underplayed, and maybe this is a confession, is having been in Uganda for 2.5 years myself, from Tanzania, I was the CEO there, is many of us lose the context on Uganda. Uganda has only started to re-emerge 39 years ago. This is post-Amin. And within that, we've had 12 years of global crisis. So whilst you're taking a growth trend, you've also had a lot of bumps, and these bumps have been heavy. So whether it's COVID, whether it's the financial recession, whether it's the Asian tiger recession, the multiple challenges that the world has seen, and currently we're going through another storm, I think, in the beginning of this year, where we're all trying to understand where this world is shaping up. But amongst this, there has been a resilient economy. So maybe for about 25 to 27 years is where really Uganda has had the best years of growth. And despite that, it has outperformed most of the economies, as you may have heard from PSST. What we are seeing as private sector, and this year I've met 39 big clients, in an economy that's, and I can read this from my days in Tanzania, that you start with an environment where you have smaller corporates, they move into bigger corporates, then they become large local corporates. Our High Commissioner comes from Madhwani family, which is a massive corporate. But gradually you'll see that you now have global corporates that start emerging into the economy. My personal appreciation is in the last 2-3 years, we've seen more global investors, both becoming part of Uganda and of course looking at better prospects. This comes with a lot of things that are happening. So oil and gas, I won't speak more about it because that brings a very different transformation. But just cement industry, from where I stand as a bank, I think we will see more than $1 billion of investments coming in. If I look at steel industry, again, linked to, every year we need at least 18,000 houses, plus. There's another $1 billion. Remember, we have the standard gauge railway. We have a lot of infrastructure development, so steel, cement, anything to do with infrastructure, you are in the game. You know, your returns will be more higher than what PSST may have told you. We're seeing telco as financial inclusion is really growing extremely fast. In fact, lending in through telco is growing at about 30%. So it's outperforming many of the other traditional models. And as a bank, that's a big challenge. We're now integrating as partners to telcos. Agri, of course, as the world continues to see more supply chain issues, you know, we'll see more foodstuff being sold from Uganda. We're also seeing much more import substitution. So if I was a business guy, I would say, what are all the imports that Uganda has, and where is my strength? And how do I go and manufacture that in Uganda? And the government has been very welcoming in supporting that. I think His Excellency the President, every time I meet him, he talks about value add, and he says, why do you have to import? You know, make it here and we make it together. You know, so that's a big thing. We are very forceful in the regional integration. Remember, Uganda is a very healthy economy, which is very stable in very, difficult territory. You have Sudan, you have Congo. So we actually are the integrators of the region in many ways. And I would say that the exports will continue to grow in those countries because they continue to be fragile. So if you're doing fast-moving consumer goods, anything to do with the last mile, anything that you can produce where somebody is living below a $5 a day, I mean, you will see tremendous growth because that's where consumption is going to happen also. But that's for the region, is what I wanted to say. Sustainability, yesterday we had meetings with, we call them export credit agencies. So we had 7. We also had the World Bank MIGA. MIGA is, the insurer for the World Bank projects. They're not there by coincidence. Like PSST said, things have changed, shifted in the dynamics. We see that there is very positive appetite, to invest in Uganda. And I think sometimes what's happening in the global space is actually helping it, because we'll see money flowing into oil and gas. We'll see some more money flowing into the climate space, which is differently, being invested. But we're also going to see nature finance. Conservation in Uganda has got big potential. And I think that's where we will see investment coming in. So, what is Uganda not doing good? And I do tell this very honestly to the PSST. Uganda doesn't know how to tell its story. I've been in Uganda for close to 2.5 years. I was telling PSST 3 times in the 2.5 years that I've been very proud of the newspaper front page, because otherwise we only talk about our problems. We have a fantastic story. We need to be very, very elaborate to tell the story. Now, I know why we are not saying the stories, because Uganda is not raising financing the way some other markets are. So if you are in the Eurobond market, you're raising some big global financing, typically you become, you drive the market, so you have to communicate. Uganda has stuck very well to its traditional roots. Things that we can bite and we can chew is what we are going to have on our plate, nothing else. And I think that means that you don't have to market. You actually are faced with this unique situation where banks like us will have to work with Uganda. But I think it's good time that we emerge as a slightly bigger force, in terms of communicating our story. So if you're in this room, you've made your best decision for the day, is what I wanted to say. We are also available as the British Chamber of Commerce to support any integration. If you want to have local partners, that's what we will do. And you couldn't have had a better ambassador, because she knows business. When you're here, she's going to ask for return on investment, both from us and from you all. Thank you.